Hi, thank you. Thank you, everybody, for being here. Um, I'm not someone who's used to giving talks, so if I stutter and I'm not very quick-witted, please understand. So we just wanted to talk about you know this book, Sacred Grounds. Um, it was so I'm going to try to do this presentation around the idea that R.K. Ramanujan did when he asked, "Is there an Indian way of thinking?" So some convoluted way, I decided this is a nice way to try and do the talk. So yeah. So first, we just to introduce the book. Basically, the idea was so there are a lot of books written about Indian football from you know um, national level standpoint. Novi Kapadia wrote a fantastic book, and there were a few others as well. Nirmal Nath and all those books. So the question that I was trying to answer is what is an Indian style of football? So we basically ended up speaking to two of India's smartest coaches, who I believe are the smartest coaches, Pradyum Reddy and Richard Hood. So from that conversation, we were finding out what all impact football has, like what all impact. Um, so football or any sport for that matter is like nothing happens in a vacuum. So it's a reflection of society. Like yesterday, you might have seen Vinicius, a Real Madrid player, and there was a racist abuse and the whole, hoopla around it. It's not because football players are racist. It's because people are racist, and football players are just people. So oftentimes you see this kind of reflection. And then we decided to just try and go to the heartlands and find out why football is popular in these parts and and they play differently. We'll talk about that as the slides go on, and what influences the style of football and the kind of impact it has on politics and religion and the life generally. So for this, we decided to not go with the ISL or I League, which is the top division of Indian football. uh, just a little history: up until 1995-96, India didn't have a national league. We had a bunch of state leagues, and then the clubs traveled around playing tournaments. So you had a DCM and Durand Cup in Delhi. You had 8 tournaments in Kerala. You had Stafford Challenge in Bangalore, Rovers Cup in Bombay, Sikkim Governors Cup. So these clubs used to go travel and play everywhere. And then we decided that we need to have one single league, sort of aping the European structure. Um, and we started that. And I don't believe that has particularly helped improve the level of Indian football, because 95, 96 NFL started. Then we rebranded and said more professionalism, started I League in the mid 2000s. And then 2014, we started ISL, Indian Super League. Again, another higher level of professionalism and structure. So as and when this happened, I felt that teams were sort of getting more and more away from the people. So to find out what football really is like at the local level, we have to cover the local football. So one interesting factor is across India, they have these local tournaments. So where I grew up in Kerala, there were seven tournaments. So that is seven-a-side football, very rough, very tough. Played in these makeshift bamboo stands, no grass on the floor, and they're just playing. It's very violent and very quick sort of football. That's a game that we used to play as kids. Similarly, Goa had a inter-village tournament. Mizoram had inter-village tournament. They also had a Young Mizo Association YMA tournament as well, which we'll talk about later. So these variants of local football was there everywhere. Bangalore had black tournaments. Black because like how the ticket is not real, no? So that black, like it's not official tournament. So that was the idea, to go and visit all of them and find out. A lot of them have history that goes to 50, 60, 70 years or more. So these are all very old tournaments, and a lot of people might not have known. So that was basically the journey that I decided to take. So and then how from there we can figure out how the culture and geography impact the way they play football. So, so the following R.K. Ramanujam's thing, is there an Indian style of football? So this is the question we are trying to answer. This is the question I was trying to answer. So a little bit about football as this beautiful game. They say it's a beautiful game, right? And this is the only cultural phenomenon that has just encompass the entire world. There is no single type of music or movies or dance that is so popular everywhere. Football is a uniquely successful cultural art form that everybody seems to play. So one of the reason is that it's a working class game. It started so there are variations of football all over the place. So Chinese have history of playing football well over 1500 years ago or something. If you go to Meghalaya, they have a thing called Dait Lakkor, which is loosely based like a football game. So several places, it's very intuitive to kick something, right? So a lot of people have played some version of football here and there. So I think that is one of the reasons for the popularity. And secondly, when the British went all over trying to, doing colonization, they used football as a tool to in both sides. So they would play football in the army, and the locals would play with them or play against them depending on the situation. This was a way of keeping fit, and it is also an idea of Christian masculinity where you have to be strong and powerful and stuff. And this is a way of training yourself. Missionaries also used football as a way to involve the locals and stuff. So like if you look at Mizoram and that side, a lot of missionary work has happened. Ukurul, these regions. Kerala, if you look at the southern part of Kerala, in the Travancore region, it came through educational institution by a professor, I think Boyle was his name, who came to be a chemistry professor or something, and then he continued the football. And the northern part of Kerala, it came through the barracks. So the culture is somewhat different in both sides of Kerala. So and then it evolved with time because it got codified and structured in due course. So we have the league and all that kind of structure now. Earlier, it was not the case. What was very interesting about it is people use football for two reasons: for identity. So the idea of representing your school team, your college team, your department, your battalion, any crest or any flag or any color, it becomes part of, you are bigger than yourself, right? You become part of a community. So it really helped in spreading football everywhere. And in India, we have Hindu clubs, we have Armenian club, we have Rajasthan club, we have an Afghan club in Bangalore. I tried to find out where it came from. Nobody knows. But there is an Afghan club. Goan FC is there in many parts. Whenever Goan people travel, they generally tend to start a Goan's FC. So it becomes part of who you are, and it also becomes part of what you do also. So Traders FC was there, Officers Club, and all this kind of stuff have come over the years as well. So everything is about being part of something larger than yourself. In the world also, it has become part of local social culture. So Glasgow, you have Celtic, who is supported by Catholics, and you have Rangers supported by Protestants. And their Old Firm derby is a huge, derby, big football match. You have the same thing with Real Madrid and Barcelona, with the Catalonia and the Spanish history. In East Bengal, Mohan Bagan is also based on partition and people coming in from erstwhile East Bengal. So it becomes part of identity in that sense. So and then we also made it our own. So one of the reasons I put that photo, the first one is the old photo of football before it was codified. The one on the left. The one on the right, the Brazilians are dancing. And you would have seen, if you are a football World Cup fan, you would have seen a lot of them dance. Because for them, their lifestyle is such that there is a reflection, is their samba dance and this carnivals and the happiness in playing football. The whole idea of Joga Bonito is all reflected of how Brazilians view the world. The one at the bottom on the left is Maradona and Messi. Similar to Brazil, Argentina has their own tango and other reflections that they are found in their football. So one of the reasons why Maradona is deified is because it's a very Catholic country. This is off topic, okay, but I'm just going to say. Diego Maradona, in 1930s or 1920s, El Gráfico, there was a magazine in Argentina who were trying to find an identity for Argentina because there were so many expats from so many parts of the world. They really didn't have one thing that they believed in or that they felt was theirs. So the earliest hero of that culture used to be the gauchos, which is basically a cowboy. But once you put fences, there is no need for cowboys. So they were trying to find the next symbol. So one of the writers at the time wrote about the street urchin called Pipe, and it had this short stature, black hair, um, who is from the streets and who plays with the vileness of being in the street as well. And he's from a poor background, so here it's written like the teeth is grinding down because chewing yesterday's stale bread, that kind of stuff. And years later, Diego Maradona was sort of the embodiment of the PB. His life story and the way he looks, everything is like Maradona. So then he went on to have a fantastic career. At the middle of big problems happening in the country, he managed to win the World Cup for them and show that Argentinian nationality is strong and powerful and capable of winning. They were just coming out of a dictatorship also at that time. So after that, it became like a thing of finding who's the next Maradona. There were many, Saviola, Aymar, Riquelme, many who came in between. But then it was Messi who actually really took the mantle of Diego Maradona. And if you see a lot of images of Maradona, he did well in Naples, in Napoli, which is also a very Catholic country. A lot of the images of him there are sort of this Jesus-like, deified images of this godlike man who took people. Naples is not a great part of Italy. They used to say Vafana Poli as a curse word. So no, people in Turin and Milan were not looking at the southern part very nicely. So he got them that kind of success to show that we are equal and all that. So his story is very interesting, and because of that, when Messi last year, the entire world was basically willing Messi to win the World Cup because it was a great story, and you can always find all these references about Jesus, and Messi scored a goal like Maradona, and they lost the first game, so they have to win the whole thing, all that kind of stuff. And the last photo is the 1911 Mohan Bagan team who beat the British. So when British looked at the Bengalis as feminine at that time because they had their own weird racial hierarchy, and this victory in 1911 against the British team was considered a huge thing because they were proving to the colonial masters that we are equal and we are playing barefoot and we are still beating you. So a lot of them became emblematic of this great success. And one of the stories says the Maidan was full, so people were flying kites to say what the score was because that many people came down to watch. So it's a beautiful game. So now the question is there a Indian style of football? Question being style. So where does that come from? Now this on the left is something that Richard Hood, who I mentioned earlier, he collected. So 80% of our minutes comes from these seven states. That is 13.7 population gives majority of Indian footballers. So it's extremely condensed in certain parts of the country. So these are the 7 states he's mentioned. I have visited 10 for whatever reason. I should have maybe visited more. Then time and money was a concern. So I visited a couple extra places. But basically, the idea was to go and find out why these places have this kind of rich history and why they keep producing players. So for that, I think firstly we need to look at history. I already mentioned how football came to these regions and took root through missionaries and through colonial people coming in. So many places it was in opposition to colonial rule. So if you look at in Malabar history, in the 1920s there was a Mapala Lehala, which was a very violent movement and a lot of things were happening. So British started Malabar Special Police (MSP), which was a camp in different parts of the north of Kerala, and the idea was for them to keep control and also play with these people, indigenous people as they call, and understand who are the social miscreants and keep an eye on them. So they started playing against them. For them it was just a small thing, but for people in Malappuram and these regions, they wanted to beat them. So one of the quotes I found was, they said the guy who's lost in life, he really wants to win in football against the people who are oppressing him. So you have similar story in Bengal, as I mentioned as well. That is the top part is Bengal. This is a photo from Ukhrul in 1934. So in Manipur, Reverend Pettigrew is the one who came in and started spreading football. So he came to Imphal and then went to Ukhrul. Ukhrul is a land of the Tangkhul Nagas. Manipur basically has three major tribes: Nagas, Meiteis, and Kukis. So early on, Ukhrul was very, very dominant. A lot of their players used to play for them for the district team, Manipur district at that time, Alang Shamre and many of them. But then they got banned for a small period of time because of some problems they had with the association. Not a long time, but just enough that there was a break and then their football went down. This is on the right side, it's Lamuel in Aizawl. That is also another part where a lot of missionaries came. This Lamuel is a very interesting ground because it is next to the military, it's a military ground. People used to play there. And it's in the center of the city, so everybody used to go and play there and watch there. Sometimes helicopters used to land there. It was a one size fits all ground. They have festivals there and local fests and all that kind of stuff happens there. So it became a symbol for Mizos, and the prevailing thought for the Britishers was that Mizos were not strong and fearsome warriors. So then they decided to play a game against Mizoram's local players, and they actually beat them, which allowed them to prove themselves to the colonial powers and also gain some respect. So in many places, football comes from opposition. Punjab, for example, is slightly different, although they had their own atrocities done to them by the Brits. After 1857 revolt, there was a move by the British to make a Punjabification of the army. Basically, a lot of the Bengalis and peoples who had sort of revolted, they moved them, and they found Punjab people to be very martial in that sense. So Gurkhas and Punjabis, they thought were very fearsome warriors. So they got a lot of them into this. So because of the barracks and everything, and people playing there, and they brought it back to their village and so forth. So you have many different ways. In Bangalore also, it is a cantonment thing. If you look at the history of Bangalore players, most of them would have come from the cantonment or the old city, not the Mysore ruled region, because that's where people played. One story I heard was they would call people to play, 11 against 11, maybe a couple of people are missing, so they'll call the locals to play. And if they play well, they used to get hollowed out bread and filled with butter. That was like a gift for doing well. So you have many wide reasons why football gained popularity in different parts of the world of the country. And now the other one I wanted to mention was the environment. So this is a place called Theratamil. This is in Malappuram. This is a place called Theratamil, and this is Arikod. And this is separated by the Chaliar River. So pre-existing history of these two cities or two small villages in the opposite side of the river was always there. Like, generally you have that my side is better than your side. And it started getting represented through football. So once the MSP came here, the Malabar Special Police came here, and they started playing. So these guys would play football on these river banks. So as soon as the monsoon's over, they'll start playing. And over time, because the sand gets thicker and thicker and thicker, it gets harder and harder for them to run. So they become really strong. Manipur Arikod, this region has produced several state players, several national team players also, most famously Sharaf Ali, who was a centre back for India. A lot of them played for Calicut University, a lot of them played in the Santosh Trophy, a lot of them played all over the place. So it's a very fertile ground for football. And one of the main reasons was they played in the sand, so it was a tough game. And there was no quarters given. Like they played, these guys used to play against the MSP people, and they would kick them. And they would ask them, why are you kicking? And they would say, you're not my brother, that I don't have to kick you. I'm going to kick you. So that kind of rough and tumble attitude came from this history that they have. And they even say, I'll kick my own father to get the ball. That is a very common thing that you hear from them. While this is very close geographically, there is another two places. One is Al Madina, a club from Cherplasheri, which is in Palakkad. and there is another club called FIFA Manjeri, which is from Manjeri in Malappuram. They had a clash of styles. So Al Madina was built under this image of this rough and hard man called Ayub, and then they play that tough kicking people and punching people and that physical style of football. Whereas FIFA Manjeri played a little bit more fancy and cool football. So they bought two African players called Francis and Francis. I could not find their second name. They just keep calling Francis and Francis. So these guys came and they started playing in a stylish way, which resonated with the people in that region. So when Al Madina tried to move away from that rough and tumble style to a more pleasing style, people didn't turn up. So they decided to revert back. So whatever you do, it has to resonate with the people in your locality, however the style of football may be. I think this is why a lot of us hold the 2000s era Ganguly team very close, because that's a time of globalization and people were sort of growing up and we were going out, and he went abroad and said that we will not bow down, we will try and play. Although we lost on and off, it's not like we won everything, but at least that attitude change. I was a 10-year-old kid and I really loved Ganguly and that approach of football. I'm sorry, cricket. Ganguly is involved or was involved in ATK. So yeah, and then so that is the geographical aspect. There are similar ones all over the country which we can mention. So like the cantonment side in Bangalore or Mahilpur in Punjab and all these things. So there was also local sport. So Kerala has a lot of local sport which is ball based, like Talappandu, Vettu and all these kind of stuff, which is just balls and people throwing and kicking and stuff. So it was natural for us to pick up also. One rather strange thing I found recently is my father comes from a place called Narikuni, which is 27 kilometers from the city. It's like it is rural now, so I can't even imagine how rural it was when he was growing up in the 50s and 60s. There is a small region there called Vattoli, which has produced so many volleyball players who played for the national team, who played for the state team, who got jobs. And my cousin comes from there. He's right now employed in the army as a volleyball player. So that one small region, and I was trying to find out why. Because the reason why Kerala plays sevens is they used to play in the paddy fields after harvest. It's not big enough to have 11-a-side games. So they transculturalized football to suit their style. And in his region, because it is a little bit more hilly than the flatter region, because his region is fairly, everything is upwards. There's no flatlands there. So for them, volleyball is even easier. So they started playing volleyball. And one story, my great uncle, I think his name is Kanaran. He was called Center Kanaran because he played center in the volleyball thing, and he was a local hero. There was the story. I don't know. This is not it doesn't paint my uncle in a great light. But they were playing some tournament, and the international player who was an Olympian, Rahman, he said, "I am coming there to play a exhibition. If anybody can lift my smash, I dare anybody to lift my smash." And Center Kararan said, I will do it. And he got smashed and hit in the head, and he fell down. So they continued to call him Center Kanaran because he was in the center and he was trying to do this. So these kind of lore and all this you can find a lot in these places. In Malappuram, there is a lot of them as well. Jinn Moideen, there was a guy who was a magician. Jinn, as in the genie, he was a magician. Irumben, I forgot his second name, but Irumben is basically Iron Man. So all of these things were given. There was a guy called Kodiyarchi Raghavan, which is chicken meat Raghavan, because the story was that you give him chicken and he'll score a goal. He's very good. To inspire him, you have to give him chicken. So they would promise him chicken and bring him to play. So all these kind of stories continue to do rounds, which makes football continue to live there and mean a lot. Also, geographically, places like Goa and Mizoram and Meghalaya, etc., because they have small villages throughout, it worked for them because they could play one village against each other. So geographically, they were quite conducive. These regions were quite conducive for football to pick up. So we wanted to talk a bit about the culture. So that one on the left, this is a ball we make out of plantain leaf. My father used to make this for me. So we basically take this and hit at each other. So that is a game. So pre-existing game, right? And then you also have reflection of the game in different cultures. So this is all Manipuri. You look at this. This is a indigenous version of hockey in Manipur. They have a few other games like this. This he's running with an oiled coconut. It's a version of rugby called UB Rugby. So Manipur has always had a very strong physical culture, whether it's their dance or whether it's their sport. Very strong physical culture because they are a martial race. They used to have people attacking from all the sides, from Burma side and all that. So they were always ready to fight. They had a history of having young kids or young men rather in a different part. Even Mizoram had this, and they would live in a separate place and be looking after the entire village and stuff. It also, because they were like this, the women were also fairly empowered, which is why Manipur's women's football is also very strong. Not just women's football, Mary Kom and women's hockey, and they are very basically you ask them to play a sport, they play. And you just go to Manipur and talk to somebody, and they will have either played at the national level or they'll know in one level of difference someone who played. So my sister just walked in and met Sarita Devi, chewed her ear off in the lift because she was wearing an India jersey and had no clue who she was. And she walked into a wedding and sent me a photo saying, "Do you know this man?" And it was Ranady Singh, former India captain. So very natural, randomly you meet all these things. My sister has no idea about any sport. So for her, she had to call and say, "Do you know this woman called Sarita Devi?" I don't know who she is. So that kind. But that's the connection they have with sport. And this is their martial art called Thangta. I went to their dojo or dojo equivalent when I was there. It was their martial art, which was like Kalari, somewhat made into performance art because the Brits didn't want you to do martial arts. So they ended up hiding things. So they would throw stuff from under the horse, and all that darts were now converted into peacock leaves and all that. So they changed it. But because of all this, and all these kids at 6 a.m. in the morning, they're all there. None of them are athletes or anything. It's part of their routine to pick up something. They might be doing taekwondo, they might be doing something or the other. So it's a very physical culture. So for them, it makes total sense that they are a sporting hub. I earlier mentioned about women being very strong there. You can look at the footballers that they produce or the boxers and all that stuff. But having said that, because of the problem that the region has historically and even now, although women have stood up and fought for rights and things, they are also the most affected by all these problems. Like we have seen some horrible pictures and videos in the recent conflict. Similarly, in Punjab, you have the idea of this Jai Jawan, Jai Kisan, who basically nurture and defenders. And it is not, it makes sense that they are mostly playing, a lot of them play defenders. So your national team, you have Sandesh Jingan, Anwar Ali, you had Mehtab. Goalkeepers are Amrinder Singh, Gurpreet Singh. So you have all these people. I think out of their 5 Arjuna awardees, 4 are defenders or goalkeepers. Only Inder Singh is a striker. This is not to say that there are no strikers in Punjab, but generally, even the coaches look at them for this position because they're tall and physical. So it makes that impact for them, and they feel it when they play. If you talk to the former players, they'll tell, we want to defend, we full dil se khelenge, all that kind of things are what they'll say. Yeah. Then, so Bangalore actually used to be known for short passing. The story goes that they were playing against the people in cantonment and they were booted. So if you held on to the ball a little bit too long, you'll get kicked. So they would release as quickly as possible, and they played well. And South India in general was a little bit more passing and stuff. So if you go talk to some of the older East Bengal or Mohan Bagan people, they'll say, I could recognize a Bangalore player immediately because of the way he plays. So this sort of reflection is there in many, many parts of the country. We'll talk a little bit more about them. About the impact of geography. So Mizoram is a very hilly state. Very hilly means you're almost always walking up or walking down. They very rarely have any flatlands. So when they do play, mostly young kids play in the small ground next to the church or small grounds nearby. They play short passing because if I kick it and it goes far, I have to run 2 kilometers down the hill to catch the ball. So none of them take these kind of shots, which has helped them develop a technique. And if you go through Mizoram, the football is never on the hand. They are walking to the ground, it's on the floor against the hill. So they're always touching it. So from a technical standpoint, Mizoram is probably one of the best technical footballers we have. And they're also not very tall generally. So it doesn't make sense for them to, play long balls. Whereas Punjab, if you go, it's like long flatlands. They all have these 11 sides. So, and they're all tall and powerful anyway. So they smash it to the other end and they compete for it in the air. Kerala, if you look at general history of Kerala sporting history, it's all sprinters, jumpers. We produce goalkeepers. Even in hockey, we produce the goalkeeper. Because this is what the physical education director told me, because we are also slightly hilly, not like Mizoram hilly. So a lot of these players come from that region. They're just used to having that kind of power to move and jump from this thing to the other, and plantations and all that kind of stuff. So, and also fairly strong non-vegetarians, which helps them with a lot of protein. This is what they told me. That on the far end is Tutur, which is a coastal village in southern tip of Tamil Nadu in Kanyakumari. They used to play in the sand before they created this and started playing football like this. They are historically shark hunters. So they go into the sea for 2 months and hunt shark. It's a very tough job to do, very dangerous job. So they feel when they play that they play without any fear. They play with that power of, we'll play football in the sand and then we'll jump into the sea and take a swim and then come back. All these things are incredibly hard. So they are all physically fit. One of them told me, none of us have cholesterol, none of us have any heart disease, because this is what our lifestyle is. It's changing now, but this is historically that way. That is a photo from Meghalaya. Again, hilly, but Meghalaya plays a mixture of football because that's rain. You can't do short passing when it's raining. And when it rains in Meghalaya, it rains. They don't look at it in hours, they look at it in days. So in that time, you hit the long balls to bypass, passing on the floor and stuff. And they are also, because they are more connected to the mainland, Assam is fairly close by. A lot of Bengalis have come because Shillong was a capital for British. So a lot of them came. So they have this sort of mixture of cultures. So they play football in a different manner as well. So these guys got a similar things, like I mentioned about the Bangalore short passing extra is there. And this is Punjab. The reason why I put it is, Punjab has a village called Sansarpur, which has produced, I think, 12 or 14 hockey Olympians. So I was wondering why Mahilpur picked up football and not hockey. And the reason that Sukhvinder Singh, who was a former coach and player for the national team, said is that this is sandy, wraith, as they say. And the hockey ball doesn't work in a sandy place. So they chose to play football. So it's a small thing that makes the difference. And then obviously you have institutional support. You have so they have the football tournament, which is supported by Mahilpur College, Khalsa College in Mahilpur, as well as the Gurudwara people who are part of the board and stuff of that nature. So it's got this whole community feel. So if you just go to Mahilpur, every village has a footballer who's playing at the highest level. Every village. So when you're driving through, they'll say, that is Amrinder's place. Oh, that is Gurkirat's place. Or this is Harpreet's place. This is Khabra's place. They all play each other. And then they come back and start, tournaments and give academies and money and so on to support the next generation. So it helps develop the football even more. So geography plays a key role in how you play football, geography and culture together. So I mentioned Meitei because of the style that they play is very strong and powerful. And they're also fairly tall people. So they can do that kind of football also. Then the other impact we found is the birthplace effect is something that we focus a lot on. And for that, we need to have local heroes. So this is T.A. Rahman. He played for the Indian team who were placed 4th in the Olympics in the 50s, 58, I think, I'm not sure. So he is from Calicut and is probably one of our biggest names. Interestingly, he was a very tough, strong man. And Aricode is coming back to the same place. So one of the story goes that he came to Aricode, he representing Calicut, came to Aricode. At the time, they were all part of the same district. For some reason, that match didn't happen. So they were all, having tea or something on the side. And there was this sort of friendly banter saying, we'll beat you, we'll beat you. So they set up a match to see who's stronger or who's better footballing team. And Aricode won, which was like this huge victory for that region because everybody expected Calicut to win. And the story goes that Rahman took his boot and threw it in the Chaliar river, and he never came back. And they say the land on which he walked, no grass has grown in the land he walked since, and all that kind of stuff. So it becomes part of their lore, and it makes them feel proud to be part of the same community. This is Jarnail Singh, who played for Punjab. He's from Mahilpur. He's their earliest superstar. If you go to, even now, you go to Mahilpur, they'll keep saying, he had 15-inch chest, he drank more milk than water, he did 700 headers a day, tied it up in the hair, whatever. So that heroism is still there. Like, they keep talking about it. So, and he was a tough and fair defender. He came to Punjab during partition and saw some really horrible things. So his take was, I saw the worst of the worst, I am not going to be afraid on the football field. And all this was very representative of how people felt there. So it worked well for them. The other person there is Eugene Lindo. He's not the first from Meghalaya, but he's a recently great player. I love him. That's why I put his photo. And this is Shiloh Mama. Malsam Tuanga is his actual name, but Mama as he goes by. He's from Mizoram. So for a long time in Mizoram, no footballers came out. They were somewhat reclusive. Historically, they had insurgency, and until 1986, they were at war. Like, Aizawl is the only place where Indian army has dropped a bomb in India. So they didn't have great relationship with India, let's say. Up until this man went to TFA, Tata Football Academy, as a 13 or 15-year-old. Went on to play for the biggest football clubs. And he's, if you look at it, there are better players than him in Mizoram, but he was disciplined and he knew what he had to do. He went there without knowing the language. So I asked him, did you face racism when you were there? He's like, I don't know. I didn't understand what they were saying. So I may have, but I didn't understand. And Sharda there had written a great article about him where she's mentioned that his first check, which is I think $1 or $1.50, he didn't know what to do with the check, so he kept it in the Bible until somebody said, no, you have to go and cash it. So that's where he came from. But because he came, the next generation saw and thought, oh, we can now do it. So the next generation was Rindikar Alte and all these guys who saw him in a Boomer ad. The chewing gum back in the day, it was a Boomer. So they saw him do a Boomer ad, and then they were like, oh, this guy can go, I also can go. So then they have continued to produce players, player after player after player from Mizoram, which is phenomenal what they're doing now. So he's done a lot to represent Mizoram and give them representation and bring them up. There are some lesser known ones. I found this very interesting. So I went to Nagaland. Nagaland is not a powerhouse of Indian football, but I went because this man is Dr. Telemarin Ao. He's the first captain of the independent India, went for the Olympics. He played there, played really well. He was Arsenal Football Club called him to say, can you play? But he said, no, I'll come back and finish my doctor degree because my father wants me to do a doctor. And he became a doctor. So I went there curious about why this level of footballer who was there, nobody followed him. Then this is the importance of the timing also, because 50s and 60s, there was a lot of insurgent movement happening in Nagaland. It was not conducive. And one of the old people I met in Nagaland said, I knew of Tiao. Once he came back, he was in the government working in the medical department or something. He never really saw him playing football. We knew he was a footballer, but that is it. So we sort of was aware it was not a big deal for us. So he said it is not a big deal for us. And because he never continued playing football, that was also an impact. So it's a lost cause because Nagaland football is huge. I'll show you some videos to prove. This is Kiran Kongsai, so Manipur has always had great players, but Kiran Kongsai is considered as the big man the first man who broke through because he played for the national team. in the 90s. He's a Kuki from the Kuki clan. His biggest impact was in the valley where Maithis lived, in Imphal. So the number of people who he inspired, a lot of them are from the Maithei land. Considering the political situation in Manipur now, I find this very interesting and something more people should be talking about. This guy was Tuboy, who was actually one of the stars in the Kuki world, because he played at a time when nobody really knew. When Tiao played, the Naga Hills, Nagaland was not even a state. The Naga Hills were so far away that they might get a paper once a week. So they didn't really know what he was doing in Calcutta. So when he played, it was pretty similar in the hills. But Tuboy, who left his army job, a lot of these guys used to play and get an army job and live there. He left an army job to pursue football and played for Shillong Lajong. And he was a scorer of great goals than a great goal scorer. So it was that kind of a character. So people loved him. So Len Dungal, Togisim Hoikib, Boitang Hoikib, all of them look at him as the guy who inspired them. And this is Jawaharlal Nehru, of course. And this is Appa Rao from East Bengal. I found this also very interesting because one of the stories I found in the book, East Bengal also looks at him as a player from Chennai, Tamil Nadu rather. But he was actually from Kakinada, which at that time was in Madras Presidency. So he's not from Tamil Nadu. When the state was created, he became part of Andhra and now continues to be in Andhra, not in Telangana. But he didn't really play in the south much. He got discovered very quickly and went straight to the East Bengal and then played over there. And for politics and other things, he did not play in the Olympics or Asian Games. When India was really strong in the 60s, when we won the Asian Games and we did well or reasonably well in the Olympics, he never played. So he didn't get that kind of notoriety. So he's one of those players who sort of fell through the cracks. So when I went to Tamil Nadu and I asked about Appa Rao, nobody knew him. When I checked in Hyderabad, nobody knew him. When I checked in Andhra, nobody knew him. They actually told me about a different Appa Rao who played for Railways. So they themselves didn't know. And what happened was, I was very curious about this. I went down some rabbit hole and I found this old tweet by some guy in US saying, this is my great grandfather or something. So I found him on LinkedIn. Then LinkedIn Premium is too expensive. So I have a friend called Sudarshan who works for the Hindu. I asked him if, and I know his friend used to work in LinkedIn. So through her, I found his email ID and I emailed him and he was shocked. He's like, I also didn't know this was there. And so connected me to his son and all that kind of stuff. So eventually managed to get some story out there also. So there are people whose impact were strong. There are people who should have had bigger impact, but because people didn't know, they played in a different place or the environment was not conducive, they missed out on that. So I just wanted to play. So is there an Indian style of football? So we're just talking about football's connection now. This is, so North Tamil Nadu, North Chennai produces a lot of footballers. And the reason why we say football transcends just being a game, this is their local song called Ghana song, which is very traditional for them. And there's a footballer called Nagesha. Never played for the national team, never played for any big teams, but he was an absolute superstar there. When Nagesha played, they stopped all the people who were working as coolies in the railway station. Trains would not leave because these guys are all in the stadium. Those are all the stories that goes. So he has a Ghana song after him, like how Gavaskar has the song in West Indies. So this is the song about Nagesha. Just a small part. It's a bigger song.
தமிழகத்தில் சிறந்த வீரன் நாகசன்னன் தானங்கோ அவர் அருமையாக கணக்கு பண்ணி வாணி அடிப்பார் பாருங்கோ தமிழகத்தில் சிறந்த வீரன் நாகசன்னன் தானங்கோ அவர் அருமையாக கணக்கு பண்ணி வாணி அடிப்பார் பாருங்கோ வலிச்சு மடிச்சு கோல் அடிச்சா உனக்கு நல்ல பேருங்கோ வலிச்சு மடிச்சு கோல் அடிச்சா உனக்கு நல்ல பேருங்கோ இடிச்சு புடிச்சு பால் எடுத்தா உனக்கு ரெட்டு காடுங்கோ இடிச்சு புடிச்சு பால் எடுத்தா உனக்கு ரெட்டு காடுங்கோ ஆட்டம் இது அருமையான ஆட்டம் அகில உலகம் எல்லாம் சிறந்து விளங்கு ஆட்டம் அதுதான் சத்தியான ஆட்டம் இத பார்த்து ரசிக்கும் நண்பரெல்லாம் ஒரே கொண்டாட்டம், ஐயோ ஒரே கொண்டாட்டம்.
So they are singing about football in Nagesha there. So North Chennai produces footballers, boxers, carom players. But the other parts of the southern part of Chennai produces a lot of tennis players, cricketers, because that's the difference in money. This is the black town, that was a white town from the colonial time. So all that is impactful on this. So Nagesha put, in some sense, North Chennai on the map. So they are singing about, look at Nagesha, what kind of player he was. And if you play well, you will do well. But if you do badly, you will get a red card. They're basically telling the next generation of kids through this Ghana song, using a local hero as a reason. So that's the impact football has for them in that part. So this is a quote from the Mizoram sports minister. A feeling of alienation was always there, and it still is, especially among elders, their generation who fought for independence. We always feel we are very different from the mainland Indians. Those days, they wanted to play against India in 50s and 70s. They fought against India. Now their sons and grandsons or local boys are playing for India. So they also started cheering for India. So football has actually brought this, not just Mizoram, this entire region of the Northeast, which was sort of not given the due recognition by the Indian government for a very long time, brought them back or gave the feeling of representation. So Tete has done phenomenal work there in this also. So you had Mama who started this, then you had the Rindika Raltes, and then JJ Lal Peklua, and now you have Changte. So all these people are starting to do really, really well. So that's the sort of impact representation through football gives them. Now this is a photo from Kohima in Nagaland. So they have an inter-district football tournament called Tiavo Inter-District Football Tournament. So loosely speaking, Nagaland has 16 tribes. Maybe more sub-tribes might be there. And all of them speak their own dialect. None of them can understand each other. So they speak this language called Nagamese, which is like a little bit of Assamese and Hindi and all that kind of stuff. So then the districts have dominant tribes in general. Not all of them. Some of them have. So like Mokukchang, Ao clan are there. Angami clans are the main tribe, is the main one in Kohima. So there is a district called Mong district, which is on the Burma border. A little bit that district is sort of forgotten about by the people because it's so far away. Konyak tribes live there. So for the first time last year, they won the inter-district tournament. So all these people, over 30,000 people traveled to fill the stadium. And through the as the tournament progressed, if my team lost, I started supporting them because we wanted them to win. They became like this huge crowd favorite. There was a romantic song, I think a Konyak song maybe, in the language that they all used to sing in the stands. It became like an anthem for their success. So they won, and that is this video. It's the moment Konyak tribe, the Mon district won. This was the sounds that was there in Mon district. That entire city was screaming and happy. The government gave them a day off the next day because it was so important for them, and it was representation for Konyak tribes in the larger thing, right? So football does a lot to bring that kind of representation internationally also, but here. So this is Mizoram. They are playing an inter-district tournament. Mizoram shuts at 6:30. Nothing happens after 6:30. This match is on a cold, rainy day. It's probably around 10 o'clock. It's a penalty shootout. Nothing's open. After this match, I had to eat a veggie burger from KFC because nothing was open and they only had one veggie burger. So this was two localities playing against each other. So while this was happening, Santosh Trophy, Mizoram was playing in the Santosh Trophy. And I saw WhatsApp messages where they were asking, do you want Mizoram to go further in the Santosh Trophy? And they're saying, no, we want them to come back and play for our locality. Because Mizoram is unlike many of the other Northeast states, they are a very united bunch. Because there is a lot of things that unite them. They have a young Mizo association where all the youngsters are part. So they have all this inter-ward thing which looks after your local needs, some wedding, some funeral. They are part of all these things. They are part of church. They are very strong religious. So they are part of this church group and all. And their language, where the Nagaland had so many different languages, they speak Mizo. So that also sort of unites them. They are one or two other dialects like Mars and all have. But largely speaking, they speak only Mizo. So all this makes them come together, which is very conducive for them to develop. And so this is the reaction after they hold this penalty shootout winner. So that one side is one team, one side is the other team. There were 3 ministers sitting here for a village tournament semi-final. There were 3 ministers, sports minister, the power minister, and one more guy just coming. And they would come in the small buses and stuff, singing songs and waving flag and all. It's very interesting. And this is a jersey which I managed to get from a friend of mine. If you look at the local jersey that they play, this is a filling station is the sponsor for this local team. So they don't have huge sponsorships, but it's a filling station, right? And in the background, it's CK Bakery. So whoever is in your neighborhood or small businessman, they will provide that kind of funding. And this is the town team Aricot jersey. And you can see similar things here. This is a wedding center. The local Aricot wedding center is sponsoring the football team. So the local people, they give whatever disposable income they have, and these are not places that have a lot of disposable income also. But that it means so much to them that they are willing to give away that little bit of money extra that they have and squeeze a little so that their local boys can play and do well. Now I just want to talk about the part of politics and religion. I'm rushing a little bit. Took longer than expected. So so this one is Mahilpur, Gurdwara right nearby, who supports the Khalsa College, and that's a local politician. That's Harmanjot Singh Kabra's father on the right side, who's a big player in his own right. So they have all been connected like this. Here you can see that is me sitting, and this is in Tutur, and those are 4 fathers from local parishes, and they are part of award giving and everything. So religion plays a very important role along with all the social structure and local authorities. It's all very strongly connected. It's the same in Mizoram. It's the same in Meghalaya also. This is in Nagaland. This is very interesting because this is Dr. Vati Iyer. He set up a football match in 2008 as a reconciliation match between the Naga group who were fighting against each other at that time. So this is a still from that match. One of the great stories or heartwarming stories is that they were not talking to each other. The only way they got that ice thawed between them, because they are all in different insurgency groups, is that they started playing football and they started saying pass, pass. That's when it started. And then they managed to play the game. They played against, so I think 3 of the groups played together. Right now there are 25. They played against, this team was from the local cultural people, like, Naga ho-hos and the church and all that kind of stuff. They played 2 games. In the second game, these guys gave a rose or something to the insurgency team. And it was given by people, by children whose parents or father or somebody was killed because of the violence there. And it was a very powerful moment because these guys realized I could have been the reason why these people are, fatherless or they've lost somebody close by. So it reduced violence a lot in Nagaland. Of course, it didn't end it, but it was a strong movement forward. And this I heard from one writer called Sanjay Hazarika in Meghalaya when I was there. And it's one of the reasons why I again decided to go to Nagaland. These are other politicians. This is basically the 2 sides of Bengal, East Bengal and Mohun Bagan fans. One who came from Eastern Bengal and the other who were the Hindus who lived there previously. Tete Hamar, who was a former Mizoram coach and Mizoram football administrator and now currently the sports minister there. Eugene Lindo was briefly a local minister as well, MLA. Jajay Lal Peklua, one of the best strikers India has seen in the last 20 years. He is currently a sitting MLA. This is AIFF's current head, I don't have a lot of. Yeah, he didn't win. There are others who didn't win. Lolendro didn't win. There are many people who didn't win, but they moved into this direction. This is in Goa, right next to the church. So what happens is in Goa is that the final of their tournament happens on the village church's feast day. So whichever patron saint feast is there, that is the day when the final happens in the afternoon. So they do the mass and everything in the morning. They come and play the final in the afternoon. So again, how religion is closely related. This is Biren Singh, former chief minister of Manipur. He was a footballer, played for BSF. I think he won the Durand Cup. Baichung Bhutia again tried his hands in politics. This is very interesting. This is Yang Masa Shaisa, who is from Ukhrul district. He was he was a former player, district player for Manipur. First chief minister from the hills. They always had from the Maitei, the valley. He's the first from the hills. And subsequently, and this is his wife, who was also a big part of women's empowerment movement in Manipur, became part of the women's football. And when in Women's Football Federation of India, which was the original football federation that was started in 1975, she was the president. That was a good federation until AIFF took over and then basically destroyed women's football. Now they are trying to come back, but AIFF is trying hard to not allow. Yeah, so we also find similar things in literature. A lot of books are written about them, like Striker and Stopper in Bengali. There is Higweta, which is a very big famous book in Malayalam. When we also use these terms to talk, in Kerala you say Hanuman gear when you are running like a crazy man. You know, so Paral, when we pass through the Nada, we say Nada is like when you keep your leg apart, pass through. So Nada is actually the door that opens. So it sort of becomes part of your lexicon also, and again it becomes part of the larger financial force. Like Goa, a lot of the clubs are owned by mining barons. Churchill Alamau is owner of Churchill is also an MLA and chief minister and all that. This and the last part I wanted to talk about was the Indian part of football. We often think football happens in silos, and to a large part that is true. But there is tremendous amount of movement that happens through football also. So if you look at this is T. Shanmugam. He's from Bangalore. He had a long innings in Goa as a coach. He coached Derek Pereira, Savia Madeira, and many others who were players then who then became coaches. Before him, Joseph Ratnam, another player from Bangalore, went and coached in Goa for a very long time. He coached Armando Colasso, who is one of the most successful coaches in India. Because of them, Goa used to play a kind of football that was very colonial. Because these guys went and said, we have to pass and play. The impact they had on Goan football, which was already strong, and they managed to develop the football even more. The same way, this is E. Sukumaran. He is the one who scouted players from Tutur for the first time in the 90s. Subsequently, a lot of them have gone on to have jobs and everything. So Cletus, the man Cletus is the one who first went from Tutur. Till then, nobody went. Tutur is closer to Trivandrum, capital of Kerala, than to the capital in Tamil Nadu, in Chennai. So they used to go and play in Kerala, but they will never get a job because they are not from Kerala. So because of him, these guys all went and had a career and a job. Subsequently, now if you see the number of people who are studying free education and getting jobs and stuff, the number of doctors, engineers, MBA professionals in Tutur has increased. They are no longer dependent on just fishing. The whole culture is changing. So you don't always need to have a hugely successful footballer to change the culture. And that's again migration to Chennai. You can see here. This is Panjabandavas, one of the great teams. 5 of the best players that East Bengal played. They played together. All 5 are from South India. They played in the 1950s. So they were emblematic of the success of football there. All of them migrated there. You look at Calcutta football is very strong because while they had good players, all the best players went there to play football as well. And this is Ramanna, I think. So there was 2 guys called Ramanna and Papannan, and they played for more than Sporting. And one was a goal scorer, the other one was an assist giver. So they used to sing Savanka Mahina Mohammedan Kare Shore, Ramanna Kare Center, Papanna Kare Score. They used to, because they were very prolific. So there's been a lot of movement this way, and many other cultural references also. I think I should stop now. So the final question: is there an Indian style of football? After boring you for an hour, I have to say I don't know. I think if you can some way find an amalgamation, so whichever side produces most amount of player, probably you can play that style, but it doesn't always suit international football. But I do wonder if an attitude like the Saurav Ganguly attitude of the 2000s is something that we can incorporate in the way we play. Because in India, our football is not great at the international level. So maybe we have to play in a way that it is punching from below and hard and defensive and disciplined, which will resonate. Like I watched Indian football team play many times, and the ones that I enjoyed the most is where we have held on and worked hard. Whenever we have played against weaker opposition, I've not had a great time watching that kind of football. But this somehow it means, even though we lost to Iran, we lost to Oman, right? The way we played made me feel very like great sort of effort from our boys. So last part, this is the last slide. I just wanted to talk about why Sacred Grounds. Actually, it's not the first title I suggested. And Sharda, who wrote the forward, said this title I suggested is like a sociology textbook. So it was like, okay, that makes sense. So we came up with few other titles and it went through many things and finally it landed on Sacred Grounds. I was not initially very convinced, but then I sent it to few of my friends and they all loved it. Then later on, I went home for something and then this is the ground in Paranjeri in Calicut. So this was not there before. This is all new. This building was also not there earlier. So when this is place where all the students study and they play. During election, this is the voting booth. We come here, the people who play there talk all the time. We talk about international politics and about the power of communism and what the chief minister did right and wrong and all that kind of stuff. It's constant conversation. So if you're a young kid, you come here and this is all you're hearing. And as you walk from, say, my house to this place, on the walls there is a flag of Brazil, there's a flag of Argentina. Right next to it there is Che Guevara and the communist logo and the Congress logo. So you pass through all of this and then you get to this ground, which is where all time political conversations happen. Right next to it there is a marriage hall. So the people there used to come and park their bikes and scooters and car here on this side where we took this photo from. You can see some cars are parked there also. So they used to come and use this as a place where when there is a celebration, this is the place where you come. So when we were kids, we were not allowed to play here. So we went to the headmaster and told him, we will water those plants if you allow us to play after school. So we struck the deal. So I take a lot of credit for these plants here. So we used to do that, and then until he left, and then the next headmaster was not happy about this barter system. So we had to jump and play. And when we started playing here, I was a young kid, and we really wanted to, the seniors would come later, and I wanted to play with them because that is your social worth at that time, to play with these big boys and for them to say, oh, you did well. That is all that we needed to show that I can hang with them. So we played in that kind of spirit. And once there was a guy called Sanish who kicked me in my knee and I had a dead leg. And then he came to me and said, I'll be fine in 5 minutes. I know what I'm doing. So that kind of, he played the local sevens tournaments, which as I said is very brutal. So he knew what he was doing. He's basically kicked me so that I won't run for the next 10 minutes. But no lasting damage. So years later, 10 years later, Leon Agustin, who now plays for Roundglass Punjab, he's from the same place. He's played with Sanish now also. And Sanish told him, good player. And he is now playing for, the top level football and stuff. And this part also is the biggest, during the Sabarimala season, the biggest Ayyappam Velakku we say, which is a festival before that, happens here. In this ground, they'll build a whole temple for the time being, and we, do all the stuff over there, pray and all that festival, elephants, everything come. Before that, for 1 month, they give you free dinner. Anybody. So we used to play, go home, take a shower, come back, get the free food, and then come, not always sit in the ground, but close to the ground and eat our food there. And it was a bunch of Hindu kids of different caste two Muslim kids and one Christian boy. All of us together eating food and talking about football and politics. So for me, this ground is sacred, and it makes sense that the book is also sacred grounds. So thank you. This is a Father McFerran Trophy booklet. This is made by obviously Father McFerran Don Bosco Youth Center. So again, connection between North Chennai and religion. And this one, this is the photo. This is the book from NSF Martyrs Trophy, which happens in Kohima, which is played after in the memory of these two boys who are shot and killed during a peaceful protest. So every year, the Angami, the Naga Students Federation, which has all the different student unions, they have this tournament in memory of those two boys. It's their biggest tournament, and it's played for these two kids. And when they were dead, and there was huge uproar, and a lot of people came because it was a peaceful protest, and they were like 13 or 12 or something, very young boys. There was unnecessary loss of life. So they remember their history through football as well.
One thing I wanted to ask was, like, is there any, across these places that you've gone to, do they have very specific names in their own languages or their own dialects for techniques that are fairly common across international football? Like maybe they didn't realize it, or maybe they didn't know that it was common. But like you said, for example, like a nut making. So can you give us like maybe a couple of other examples as well on that?
I'm sure there are, but I don't know them because when they tell you and you listen to the recording, I don't know the spelling and all that kind of stuff. But a lot of them do. But it's mostly a reference because Nada is for us temple. Temple doors is called the Nada. So for us, because we have so many temples and then a lot of us go and pray and stuff, it becomes part of our lexicon. Hanuman gear, I don't know where it came from because it's like you put on a gear and then you just spin. There was no finesse in that run. If you ran well, it's called parel. Parel is a streaky fish in the stream. That's a fast winger. Hanuman gear, I don't know where it came from. I used to say that. So I'm sure there are, especially in Kolkata and in Kannada also, there were a couple of words which I forget now. But there are for sure, yeah.
Yeah, it's really interesting actually, the whole geography of the football. But just a question, in you had Maharashtra up as a big state, but
Yes.
how is Bombay featured in? Because Bombay had a lot of the football grounds, and that's one part of the question. And the second is like the culture of Indian football. Is it only now only associated to those smaller areas where it's still sustained, and like say the cities, they have kind of got into this other different culture of football which is more international or more relevant to seeing international players or more visual than anything else?
Yeah, so Maharashtra continues to produce fair amount of players, not to the level they used to before, because there's been a drop off in Maharashtra, and players only come from Thane and Bombay. Might be a few. Kolhapur has a great culture, fan culture, but nobody comes from there as players. Numbers are very limited. I think there is two that I can remember who came from Kolhapur. But the problem is, if just because you had a culture, if you don't nurture it, it will die. Like you see Hyderabad, what has happened to Hyderabad? A tremendous football culture at one point in time. Now we are featured nowhere. Similarly, Sikkim is another strong bed. Kashmir is actually starting to do decently now. Bangalore football had a big downfall. Now they are coming up, but as you mentioned, in a different way, because it's always been a very working class, lower income class sort of football culture where players used to come from. Although participation level, I think football might be more than cricket because a lot more people might play football than cricket. Not sure, I'm guessing. If not, it's very popular in which way. But now in Bangalore, because there is a lot of disposable income and a lot of academies and so on, we're having a different type of culture. The old hubs of Austin Town and Gautampura and Murphy Town, all of them will produce players, but we might get a different level of players also coming out from Bangalore. But we have to wait because the attrition rates in football, like 10,000 people play, only maybe 10 or 12 will end up making it at best. So whether the question is they'll sustain or not is something to think about. Because it's happened everywhere. Like cricket has a huge attrition rate. We don't know because way too many people play. Swimming has a tremendous amount of attrition rate among women. They are trying to change it. So it happens everywhere. But let's see what the new cultural change will be.
So, was there anything around women's style of football in India that you were able to come across while talking to all these people you met?
Yeah, so football for women from 70s to say 90s was very strong in Goa, Bengal, Karnataka also, and Manipur. They all used, I don't exactly know how much of a style they had. They were all playing. You had Yolanda, who was a tremendous goal scorer, and Sakarina from there in Goa. And you had Bembam and Amusana and many players from Manipur as well. But whether they had like a consolidated style of football, I don't think that culture was developed as much. So it just happened. If you just play a lot more, you're probably better than the other, that sort of a thing. But I see women's football doing much better now. They're really coming up. A lot of players are going abroad, which is tremendous for us. Manisha Kalyan is now in the South America somewhere. A lot of them are going to the Central Asia and Cyprus, that kind of places. Some to the Australian Football League as well. So our team, under 17, two age group team and the senior team qualified on merit for Asian Cup, which is more than we can say about the Indian men's team. So they are doing well, but we are still not giving them what they need to do well. What is happening with AIFF and the way this year, you should have done everything to ensure these three teams had a great camp and development before they played the tournament. It's not there. We just hired a coach last minute who will either be the fall guy or the great, stroke of brilliance, whichever way it goes. So they are not doing enough, but I think it's easier. It's probably more likely that women will get to the World Cup faster than men if we do it properly.
Sandeep, one of the things in your book that you talk about, it's almost like a re-look at what we should see Indian sport is. We keep saying India is not a sporting culture, India is not a sport. All the time they're sort of ranting and raving about it, but you were able to go and find these stories that are there that are almost as old as us as an independent nation. Did you, because we are in the same profession, did it change the way you think about how we look at sport and how sport should be looked at, or and did it make you sort of measure, change the way, as we see, success in sport is always Olympic medal, that kind of thing? Yeah. So did this whole, or did you always have that in mind before you set out to write this book?
Yeah, the second part was, I had maybe a very small thing in my mind that, okay, you don't always have to win. Like I covered swimming, and in our profession they used to mock swimmers, like, they are not going to win. But every year they were breaking their national record. So for me, that is growth. It's obviously not in keeping with the world growth, but it's still growth. So I did feel that a little bit. But after, traveling around, world changing, even life changing things that come through playing football or sport in general. If you forget you get an education, you might get a job, all that is one thing. A lot of them are using it for people to be away from social evils. Because a lot of these are border states, and a lot of drugs and these kind of uses are higher. So they are trying to use sport as a way to tell them to not do these things. Physical fitness, mental fitness, teamwork, all these things they are working on. So yeah, I found that tremendously, like for me, changing everything. But the one before, where how the outlook changed because of my wife, she's standing over there. This is little embarrassing, but she used to, so she's a PhD, so she's learned a lot. So I used to ask her things randomly, and she will have these really deep insights about some things, not all things. Culturally, she'll have these real insights, a very nuanced take, and this happened there because of that historically it's like this. And I was this guy who just covered my football and tennis, and I was like, that team won, this team lost. So I felt inferior. So I decided the way to tackle this is to read and rival her in some sense. So it started from there. I started reading a lot more books, which I had stopped for the last 10 years in the profession. And then the idea formed because I read Angels with Dirty Faces from Jonathan Wilson, and Alex Pelos's football, Brazilian way of life, and behind the iron curtain, all these things. Suddenly, I started thinking there has to be something like that in Indian football also. I'm sure cricket there is. A lot of Sharda yourself would have found a lot of these things. Olympic sports also, we have done a fair amount of hockey and all that stuff. So I thought, why not football? So a lot of credit has to go to her. I think probably first time she heard this. But yeah.
Hi, Sandeep. Paul here. So you showed me a lot of trend, which is actually, olden times. You have from the history of Indian history to present time. What is the future? Where are we finding these dots? Where are we finding these kids? Is there any pattern opening up because you have done this book, you have traveled, you understood the space? Is there any particular state is doing something, or you are able to predict at least in 5 years down the line, 6 years down the line, there are going to kids coming up from certain areas, and which are the areas that if you see there is a mark coming up? That's just to understand.
Mizoram for sure. They have a Nopang league that is happening there, where all these kids come from, I don't know, hundreds and hundreds of kids are playing 30-35 games from under 8 onwards. So the way to improve football is that you need to play games. It's practice, performance, and then recovery. Everybody knows this, but it's no rocket science as such, but nobody does it. So they keep trying to put hurdles whenever possible. That's our association. They don't do a good job most of the time. Like Bangalore is doing well. I don't know if it'll end up developing players, but I know Mizoram, I think 2% of the population make money from football, which is tremendous amount of people, especially considering it's a very sparsely populated state. So they will produce players. I think currently I was talking to Richard Hood, who was a coach a couple of weeks ago, and he said Manipur, it's the next 10 years it's Manipur. They are going to dominate. Reliance has also started another league in Tutur, which I think is good because they have an existing culture. They can just do this. And if they can get one in a couple of other places, I think it will help. But fundamentally, up until certain age level, we are there. We are good enough. Then we tail off. Renedy Singh, who's one of our captain, former captain, great player, he told me they played Japan as under 17 or under 19 against Nakamura, Shinsuke Nakamura, I think is his name. Played for Celtic. So they played as age group players and they lost 2-1. He was playing on the left wing, that guy was playing on the right wing. So they're playing against each other. So he's like, okay, good player. 7 years later, they played in Saitama World Cup qualifier. They lost 7-0. So he said, in that 7 years, this guy has gone to the next level. So we lose a lot of players there because there's no path, there is no opportunity, there's no structure, no jobs in some sense also. A lot of people play to have security in life. That doesn't come. These smaller tournaments are very interesting because they keep players there also. Players in Shillong can earn 5,000, 20,000 per match if they play this Basti tournament, which is their local tournament. If I make 20,000 per game, why do I have to go to say Punjab in Minerva and struggle to make 30,000 per month? They're happy where they are. So there are structural things that we need to fix. Again, these are all not difficult things to fix. It's just that we are not really fixing it.
Hi, Sandeep. I said. So my question was on 2 points. I'm still figuring out how to phrase it. So the first one was regarding, because football is so rooted to identity, is that why the club format of the game is what is predominant, and it's probably difficult for a different sport like cricket to break into? And the second was regarding, I do believe football is a working class sport, but in a metro like Bangalore, there is a paradox which exists that people who view football are seen as elitists, or they occupy the more fancier people. And more recently, the example of whoever took on to F1 is mostly because football stopped being that niche, so they wanted to maintain that elitist thing. So that's how
that a thing?
That's how it, there is a talk, or that's how it's seen in the city. So that's a paradox from the working class roots of football. So just on those 2 points.
Yeah, so the club culture does help, because if you go to Manipur or these places, there is a cultural sports and arts and culture club on the road. Trau, Neroka, they're all local clubs. And there will be a ground next to it, and all these people will come during festivals. They'll play in that ground. They'll play football in that ground. Eastern Sporting Union is another one. Women's team also they have. So that definitely helps. A lot of it is also taught through the colonial histories there. They had gymnasiums and they had these clubs and so on and so forth. Cricket and tennis are all club, elite sport from the beginning. So it's sort of a different vibe. If you just read that, there's a book called My Father and Other Working Class Heroes. It's a tremendous book about footballer playing in the 1950s in England. So if you just check, I mean, people who are watching football in England, they always say he put a shift in, he's hardworking. It's because the factory connection that they had. They had these factory things of working and putting shift in is from that. Nobody in Argentina will say, oh, Messi didn't put a shift in. No talk of that. So that's sort of different cultural nuance. And the second part, football, if you go to Bangalore football stadium, it's still the old Tamil speaking bunch who are there, who are shouting and screaming at the players and all. Like if you just see Tamil people as a whole, Bangalore football is largely from that Tamil community. Tamil Nadu also produces a lot of. Tamil Nadu has tremendous sporting culture generally, cricket and squash and chess and many tennis. All these things they play. In Hyderabad also there was a bunch of Tamil ancestry there. So you have still the old group there. But when you are playing ISL, there is no real local connection. Like Hyderabad was once in Pune, then came to Hyderabad, now went to Delhi. So funny thing is, Round Glass Punjab plays in Delhi. Delhi FC plays. So last year I think Delhi FC played in Punjab and Punjab FC played in Delhi. So we have these. You need to have some connection to the local people, right? So Bangalore FC for that matter has done fairly well to create a local connection. But a lot of Kerala Blasters have done, but a lot of other teams maybe not so much.
Hi. So this is, maybe you've answered this or not. Something that I've seen or I think observed is a lot of these communism forward regions, let's say Kerala or West Bengal, have had a prolonged football culture. Let's say Tamil Nadu also has had footballing over the time, but after a point, like you said, it tapers off because people go into other jobs and stuff. Any reason why that is a thing? Like,
I don't know if the communism bit is the reason for the prolonged nature. I was told not to say much about communism. So if you go to Kerala, there is a lot of these Red Star Club, Brothers Club, and all these kind of things which have, references to Soviet Union and that kind of culture. So we just name them as such. I don't think there is a communist league, but the one thing was my father's generation, maybe 10 years before me also, there was a ground and right next to it there was a library. So you would read about politics and newspapers in the library and then you'll go and play football. So that connection was always there. In Bengal it came because when the migration happened during partition and so forth, Congress had people in Mohun Bagal. Communists had more leaning in East Bengal. But if you look at it now, Trinamool Congress, they have helped all the clubs. So it's also because the kind of Goti Bengal rivalry that was there before, that is not there as much because time has moved on, marriages happened between the two communities, so what have diluted. So current CM has helped all three clubs find sponsors and help them out and all that. So it now becomes a vehicle to sort of generally use to stay in power. But yeah, I'm not really sure about the communist angle. It could have been Congress angle or whatever also. I can't say for sure. Che Guevara is a Kerala thing, right? We had Che Guevara in our handkerchief and all that. Like, I didn't know who Che Guevara was. We just knew it's this guy. When later on you read and figure out. But beginning it is like he's a communist hero. That's all we knew. That's our indoctrination. Oh, actually there was a video. I don't know if you have time. Do we have time?
Sure.
So this one is both from Kerala, right? So this is Dulquer Salman sitting and talk. It's Malayalam, so I don't know how many will understand. So basically, this girl asks Dulquer Salman, what is communism? Dulquer Salman is sitting there in an Argentina jersey after just walking back, from just playing. So he explains in very simple terms.
ശരിക്കും എന്തായി കമ്മ്യൂണിസം എന്ന് പറഞ്ഞാൽ?
കമ്മ്യൂണിസം എന്ന് പറഞ്ഞാൽ നീ എന്നും ലഞ്ച് വീട്ടിൽ നിന്നാണ് കൊണ്ടുവരുന്നത്.
അതെ.
സപ്പോസ് നിന്റെ കൂടെ പഠിക്കുന്ന ഒരു കുട്ടിക്ക് ഒരു ദിവസം ലഞ്ച് കൊണ്ടുവരാൻ പറ്റില്ല. ലഞ്ച് മറന്നതാവാം, ഇല്ലേ കൊണ്ടുവരാൻ പറ്റാത്ത സാഹചര്യമാവാം. അപ്പൊ നീ എന്നാ ചെയ്യും?
ഞാൻ എന്റെ ലഞ്ച് ഷെയർ ചെയ്യും.
ഒരു കമ്മ്യൂണിസ്റ്റ് എന്ന് പറഞ്ഞാൽ അത്രേ ഉള്ളൂ.
ഇവിടെ കമ്മ്യൂണിസം പറഞ്ഞ് ഫുട്ബോളും കളിച്ച് നടന്നു.
So she is saying just talk about communism and play football and walk around. That's what she says at the end. But she asks what is communism and he says, if somebody comes to your class without lunch, what will you do? And she says, I'll share my lunch. that is communism. So that's the setting. So there are many movies like this, KL Pattu and all these things are there. And this one on the top is his father, Mammootty. I think it's 80s or early 90s movie. So the football is not great, right? He uses as comedy now. But the fundamental idea is you have these, this is basically a confrontation scene. These four guys wearing Western attire, shorts and shoes, especially in those times, right? And he is in a mundu and white shirt, which is very Malayali kind of thing, right? So he's asking them, instead of a fight, he says, let's play football, me against all of you. Now you can laugh, right? See, all of them are. So that's the heroism. You are all one team. I am. See, nobody's doing anything, right? Like I said, back in the day. Even Messi does not have this close control. And it's a very long segment also. We could have done with a shorter segment. So the hero has won. So rather than fight them, you beat them in football. The end result is the same. So for Malayalis, there is a lot. So this is also why Kerala tried to bring Argentina, right? The election is in a couple of months. They thought, we'll bring Messi and get votes. That did not work. All World Cups and Olympics are, way for nations to show how good they are. So if the Eastern Orient do it, it's called sports washing. If the Westerners do it, it's called nation branding. Oh, that is a cookie community playing football with AK-47. This is during the current problem that is going there. So cookies are, they played a football match in Kankopi, I think, district. And they were playing with AK-47. So it's part of the revolution. Yeah. Because they are militant groups and they are fighting, right? So it's part of it. So there were a lot of young kids involved and all that kind of stuff on the side and all. It was a major news, I think 3-4 years ago now. Maybe 3 years ago. But the fact that they chose to play football as opposed to any other game, it shows the cultural currency it has.
Sandeep, one last question maybe. I haven't read this book, which I'll eventually read, but I want to know what is the central theme of your book. Are you proposing that coming from Northeast, I know football is a cultural expression more than anything else. It's not like a avenue for monetary benefits or anything. But are you proposing that through football there could be a national nation formation, national nationhood formation, or are you asking through your book that it should be the
like
central
national identity to football?
Yeah.
If you are successful, I'm sure it'll happen. Because cricket is currently very much political and part of the whole thing. The problem in football is we don't win. So there is no reason for anybody to, no politician to support or use them as a show. Like if PV Sindhu wins, hockey team wins, wrestlers win. So it makes sense to show that our nation is doing well in sport. Football, we don't win. So until you start winning at an international level, it will not happen. But I do feel because you are able to have local representation, you can then translate that into a nation being we have problems now with people talking about migration and so forth. Football has shown you the importance of having people move, back and forth, and that cultural exchange is so important and so useful for everybody. So I hope that is something people can take away from not just football, sports in general. If we just, like Sharda and I had this conversation some time ago, India is a sporting country, we just don't know it yet. Or we haven't managed to get it out properly. It's still sort of in silos. If we just find a structure, we'll do well. So hopefully in the future, yeah. Thank you.